Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our evening Dhamma. Tonight all our meditators are absent. They are in their rooms. We've locked them away. In their cells. Our three meditators are on the last. They've synchronized, so they're all on the last bit of the course. They're very, very intent on their practice. It's really good to see, which is a thing to rejoice over. We have three meditators now. One of them finished this morning, but she's continuing on. So great to see people when they're in that zone where their practice is really succeeding. So great every time someone succeeds at the course, every time someone sticks it out. You never know. It's not an easy thing. So tonight I thought I'd talk about success. The Buddha's teaching on success is I would say one of the most widely applicable teachings, most useful, broadly speaking. When I get all these questions about people, how they can solve their problems in life, I think this teaching would be very useful to answer these sorts of questions. People have challenges in their lives. How to succeed at anything, how to succeed in the world, how to succeed in relationships, how to succeed in business, how to succeed in spirituality, of course, how to be prosperous and successful. The Buddha taught what are called the four iddhipada. Iddhipada are the four roads to power, really, to mastery, to success. I don't suppose the real translation is success. It's more just about mastery. And I don't know that the Buddha would actually have thought to apply these four to the worldly life, but they are the four ways to succeed in anything. Four things you need to succeed. They clearly are. I mean, it's such a good teaching that the Buddha gave us. Very simple and clear. Something to always keep in mind no matter what you do in life. Most especially when you're meditating. Keep these four things in mind and understand them, and your meditation will succeed. Four principles principles to keep in mind. Anyone in spiritual practice needs to keep in mind. Can't succeed without these four. So the first is chanda. Person needs to be interested in what one's doing. You have to want to do it. You have to be inclined towards it. very hard to succeed at something if it's not something you are inclined to do, something you like doing, right? If you're doing a job that you really hate, it works against your success. If you don't like to meditate, not easy to succeed, right? If you're just forcing yourself to meditate, sort of like holding your nose and doing it, not easy to succeed. This is why some people criticize insight meditation, because it's not comfortable. They talk about more comfortable types of meditation as being better, right? I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree. It's much better to have a pleasant meditation, all other things considered. It'd be much better if we didn't have to struggle. But of course, the problem with comfortable meditations and pleasant ones is they don't actually generally challenge you or bring you out of your comfort zone. They generally don't lead you to enlightenment as a result. So how do you practice something that challenges you, something that forces you to change without hating it, right? I think the only mindfulness meditation has the power to allow you to do this. Can't imagine. I think with anything else, you just have to change your mind about it. You have to actually make it comfortable, make it enjoyable, or else stop doing it. Of course, with mindfulness, it's quite different, because our dislike of anything, including meditation, is independent of the actual thing, including the meditation. So if you dislike meditating, it has nothing to do with meditation. It's your own reaction and judgment of it, which is independent. That's part of what we're learning in meditation, right? Meditation itself isn't exempt from our defilements and isn't exempt from our study of our defilements. If you don't like meditating, well, it's still a disliking. It's just like any other disliking. And you be mindful of that. I mean, how to overcome the dislike of meditation is not to force yourself to do it even though you dislike it, even though you don't want to meditate. The answer is to meditate on the disliking. When it becomes the object, it's no longer a problem. When instead of using the dislike and having it be a part of your approach to meditation, yes, I dislike it, but no, I'm meditating on the disliking. There's no problem. But be clear, if you dislike meditating, it's going to be very much against your potential for success. This isn't something that you should do even though you don't want to do it. If you don't want to do it, well, of course the other option is to just stop, but of course that's not really an option, so be mindful of the disliking. Meditate on it. That's the first. The second is really you need effort. Effort is, I mean, in a mundane sense. So this is true with any work you do. If you don't put out effort, you don't succeed. But with meditation, again, it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit different, because if you just put out effort, it's very wrong, actually. If you just push and push and push, not actually right effort. Right effort is a momentary thing. It's in the moment that you actually do it. It doesn't have a value, really. You either have it or you don't. Are you mindful of the object or are you not? If you're mindful, there's effort there as well. The effort to be mindful, right? You have made the choice to be mindful, really. That's the effort. And the effort to do that repeatedly. The effort to return again and again to mindfulness. It's not the effort to walk or the effort to sit. If you're tired of walking, we do a lot of meditation, and if you do a lot of walking meditation and it becomes tiresome, or you're tired of sitting, then that has to be the object of your meditation. It's interesting how if you're really mindful, fatigue doesn't bother you. There's a great energy involved. But practically speaking, on a mundane level, it just means do it. You have to walk even when you maybe feel tired. You have to sit even when you feel tired. Doing it and being mindful of the tired rather than mindful of the fatigue, rather than letting the fatigue control your practice. You need to do it. We get home from work sometimes and feel too tired to meditate. So the effort is making this decision to be mindful. And again, focusing on the fatigue as the object rather than letting it control you. You need effort. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done with any work. This is applicable in any situation, of course. You don't put out effort, no success. The third thing you need is citta. Citta means you have to keep your mind on it. You have to pay attention. You have to focus on it, right? You don't focus on your work or even study. You don't study for your exams. If instead you go out and party, or if you don't ever spend time doing your work, it doesn't get done, right? Or if you do it, but you're not focused on it, you're not paying attention. You do a sloppy job, you do a poor job. Of course, this isn't truer nowhere else than meditation. If you're not paying attention in meditation, what are you doing, right? If you're meditating but your mind is elsewhere, your mind is focused on something else, you're not going to succeed. If you're not here and now, paying attention. Attention is a big buzzword in insight meditation, I think. We talk about this a lot, bare attention, people talk about it. A sign that you're being mindful is attention. If you have a lot of mindfulness, it feels like you're paying attention. Mindfulness grasps the object, confronts it. They're not the same thing, I think, but paying attention or being attentive is certainly a result of mindfulness. Whatever you do, you have to keep it in mind. Keep focused on it. Both in terms of remembering to do it, and in terms of when you do it, be present, Whatever you're going to do in life, if you want to succeed at it, you have to be there and be present. And the fourth is vimangsa. Vimangsa. Vimangsa is an interesting word grammatically. I just found out it actually comes from mang or man, I think, this root having to do with thinking and the mind. And it should have been mimangsa, but it becomes vi, so it has nothing to do with the prefix vi, which means special. It's vi, which, anyway, I always thought it had something to do with vi for special, but it doesn't. It just means mimangsa. It's an interesting, if you think grammatically, it's a reduplication of the beginning, mangsati, mimangsati. They do this in Pali. But if you think of that mentally, it's not just thinking about something, you mimangsati, right? You roll it around, kind of. It has this feeling to it. Easy to understand why they picked this form to talk about this concept, how language evolves. It's very natural. So this means to consider. It's not like citta. Citta means to keep focused on it, to keep it in mind. Citta means mind. So citta means you have to mind it or be mindful of it. Vimangsa is when you're focused on it, because when you focus on something, it's easy to just get tunnel vision, right? And even it reinforce your bad habits if you're not careful. You can focus on something, doing it, and never change, never improve. So your efficiency is very low. Someone might do walking and sitting meditation for many hours, but without stepping back and saying, hey, am I doing this properly? Without considering their progress. I think a lot of this goes on when people, when we have these interviews. People are forced to reflect on their practice. How was their practice during the day? Without this, it's easy to reinforce your bad habits and get stuck. After some time, you slowly get off track. You can get caught up in something. Vimangsa is what brings you back. Vimangsa says, hey, I'm not being mindful of this. I'm not seeing this clearly. I'm veering off path, developing bad habits. It goes with anything in life. You can't just work like an ox. You have to be clever. You want to succeed, you want to progress. You have to be able to reflect and consider that your methods might be wrong, just because you've been doing something a certain way for so long. Like Ananda, right? Famous story of Vimangsa. He was meditating all night, dead set on becoming enlightened, and it just wasn't happening. And then just before dawn, he just thought to himself, he said, wait a minute, here I've been walking all night. I put out too much effort. So what if I were to lie down and balance my faculties, to cultivate concentration? And that's all it took. As he was lying down, he became enlightened. Before his head touched the pillow, but his feet were already off the ground, he became enlightened. So he's special in that he became enlightened in none of the four postures. But this was vimangsa. This was considering, maybe I've got to change. This is the ability to adapt and adjust. It's, of course, you can see this in the world when people have a job that they do and they do it the same way, never thinking that maybe they could do it differently and improve. And if anyone suggests that they could improve, they're often quite reactionary, thinking that it works fine the way they do it. This is a bad sign. The inability to change, the inability to adapt, and so on. It will hinder your ability to succeed. Flexibility is important, adaptability. These are all signs of someone who is mindful, someone who is not stuck in, attached to anything, or stuck in ego and so on. The ability to adapt when things change, they don't get upset, they change. And they adapt. There's a sign of ability. Well, I mean, we monks have the ability to consider and adjust, not just plow on. So there you go, there's the Dhamma for tonight. I suppose there are some questions. I'll go and check that out. If I can log in, yep. Let's see here. What type of experience is intuition? Sensing danger or sensing the correct way to respond to something without really thinking? Sensing something isn't clear to me which sense it belongs to. Well, it's mind. The intuition can be wrong, but it involves how we process things, how we put information together, how we the answer we come up with. When I say, what is 2 + 2? 4 is your answer, right? That's simple intuition. You're faced with a question, 2 + 2. And it's that, I don't know, I mean, it's probably more complicated than this, but it's basically that the ability to answer that. So when you're given a set of phenomena or stimuli, it's a much more complicated equation, but the answer you come up with is, hey, this is danger. This person's lying to me, or so on like that. If you're talking about some sort of extrasensory intuition, then I mean, all that is I would say there's more to the equation than we understand. Suppose someone comes to you and they're not doing anything, but you just intuit that they've got it out for you. I mean, sometimes that's wrong. Sometimes you're wrong and they don't actually have it out for you. But sometimes it's remarkable that, hey, it turns out that I knew it. This person had it out for me. The equation is just more complicated. It probably has something to do with past lives. May even have something to do with being able to read people's emotions, that kind of thing. Read their minds or something like that. But if you're talking about which sense it is, it's mental. It's how the mind sanya works. It comes down to the basics of sanya, how we perceive things. And the correct way to respond, of course, it's not always the correct way. Again, you can be very wrong and be intuitively, you know this is the correct way, and be very wrong. Or you can be mildly wrong. It's just how we answer the equation. It's a good question. A little bit intellectual, and not all that entirely useful from a meditation point of view, but interesting. Protection, you draw a line on killing, stating that killing plants is okay, but any sentient beings is wrong. Okay, well, let's be clear. Nothing is wrong. Killing is not wrong. You can murder, you can kill everyone on earth and it will never be wrong. Acts are never wrong. What's wrong is the intention. And it's wrong because it perverts your mind, right? It's not wrong to kill people because they die. It's wrong to kill people because it hurts you. There's not really a distinction. It hurts you because it's awful to kill people. And it just makes you a psychopath. But that's the reason. So killing plants is looked at as innocuous because no one really feels guilty or bad or sorry for having killed a plant. And the plants aren't really capable of suffering. They wither. That's about it. But if you kill an insect, insects clearly don't want to die. They're clearly afraid of you. If you ever, even a mosquito, if you grab it by the legs, it freaks out, right? And there's mind there. There's stories of angels living in trees, tree spirits. And when you cut the tree, they freak out. So, I think you could argue that there's perhaps some, because remember, this body doesn't have mind. The mind is what's associated. The mind is just clinging to it. It has been clinging to it since it was formed in the womb. So mind can cling to anything. It's just that. So it really, killing a sentient being is just that we're clear that there's a mind that is very, very much dependent and caught up with this body, such that if you do kill it, it's really going to cause a lot of stress and suffering for that mind on a very intense level. Even to the point of course, feeling physical pain, but also great mental distress. If there's this tree spirit living in a tree, you might think, maybe I shouldn't cut these big trees. If you know there's a tree spirit, there's a spirit living in the tree, it's probably better not to, for the same reason, right? So it's not about being wrong. It's about not being a jerk, and not cultivating mind states that cause stress and suffering for other beings, if you can help it. Right? Torturing living beings for the same reason. If you torture someone's body, it causes reaction in their minds. And if it's done out of malice, if it's done when you do it, intending to cause suffering to others, it perverts your own mind. That's the real problem. It's an interesting dilemma. It's not cut and dried the way people think. That plants just don't have mind. It's not really that, because body doesn't have mind as well. It's about the mind that is attached to the body. If you take a baseball bat to someone's car, it also causes suffering to that person. So, because they're very much attached to their car. So, it's like killing a person. It's like torturing a person if you beat up their car, because the anguish that they feel is very real. It's an order of magnitude greater when our attachment to the body. When you hurt someone's body or kill the body, it's a very deep attachment. It's common to see things as they are. See how non-beneficial indulgence are. So do we try to avoid them in order to see the hindrance more clearly? I feel that when I resist it, my practice is more pure and I can protect. But in truth, it doesn't cure me from them. I'm still attached to them. That takes, I get what you're asking, but it takes a lot more effort. You really have to put in intensive effort, sometimes for months or years, to free yourself from all indulgence and lust. So, avoiding, yes, frees you from them, but it's not a permanent fix. Eventually you have to face them. Visaya bimukha. You have to face them, face the experience with mindfulness, not avoiding it. I mean, to start off, it's important that you back off, but eventually you have to face and see through it. I mean, it's only by seeing it clear, by observing it, objectively, that you can see how useless it is. Avoiding it isn't going to do that. And so I understand this tension, but the answer is really just much more intensive practice. To the point where you're able to, it's like a laboratory, where you're able to see moments of attachment and cut them off as they arise. Or see them as stressful and so on. And through intensive practice, seeing that again and again, and that's what frees you. Should time seem to go by faster in deep meditation? Oh, sometimes it does. Maybe, and we're not practicing deep meditation, so sometimes it goes quick, sometimes it goes slow, it's impermanent. Are there any teachings related to humor? Humor is not generally seen in a positive light. We frown on humor. I know there are many monks who are very funny and humorous. In Thailand it's a big thing. There are very funny monks. Some Thai monks are very funny. I think there's nothing wrong with seeing the humor in something, but to make that, to actively, purposefully try to make people laugh is problematic, because it creates attachment. It creates liking. You like that. And we like Dhamma talks. If you like the talk, I think the only liking would be the only liking that's of any value is the liking of the Dhamma. If you like the Buddha's teaching on the 4 roads to success, then I would say that's generally considered positive. But if you like the way I deliver it, that's dangerous. Maybe you like the sound of my voice, or maybe I tell a story and you think, what a good story. Makes you smile, makes you laugh. Generally problematic, because that's liking something that is not Dhamma. It's liking something superfluous. Like if you laugh at something, there's a pleasure there, and you like that pleasure. I mean, not always. If you're laughing mindfully, then that's not a problem. But you have to be mindful. Is there a way to see for myself that rebirth is bound to happen when I still have attachment at death, instead of just believing in the concept? You don't know. See suffering in life but not able to believe in rebirth is causing issues because I'm not able to commit myself. Well, if that's No, I don't go for it. You don't need to know you don't need to remember rebirth, past life, in order to commit yourself to the practice completely. That's an excuse that you're making. You don't need to believe in past lives or future lives. I think a belief that there is nothing after death is dangerous. That's a belief. But if you just give up that belief and don't think about future lives and so on, you'll be okay. Because the future lives is it's not anything different, it's just an extrapolation of this. So as long as you understand how this works, and that's all, if that's how you understand it to be in the future, you'll be fine. Don't worry about death. Yes, it's conceptually useful to think, hey, I might go to hell if I'm a really bad person, but if you're into meditation, that's not really an issue. Focus on understanding how the mind works, and at death it's no different, not categorically. It's still just experience. So if you're not able to commit yourself to the practice completely, there's something else wrong. Maybe you don't like the practice, and then you have to develop chanda. It's the term Buddha Puta, reserved for noble disciples or any monk in general. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a loose term. I think it's something the Buddha used rhetorically. There's a rhetorical value to it. But my inclination would be to say it refers to noble, enlightened ones, arahants, really. But I don't think it's something that was ever defined as only this and only this. But I would be surprised if it meant anything other than arahant, or at least enlightened being. Isn't killing more about ending life? Cutting down a tree probably does not kill the tree spirit. Destroying a car won't kill the owner, but neither does killing the body. If you kill the body, it doesn't kill the mind. The mind is always being born and die. You were thinking of something. See, this is the danger of getting too conceptual. There's nothing it's not categorically different. You cut down the tree spirit, cut down the tree spirit has to move on. You kill the body, the mind has to move on. It's not categorically different. You destroy the car owner has to get a new car. It's actually not, from a point of view of the mind, it's not categorically. This may be a heretic thing to say, but I think I'm on solid ground. I know we talk a lot about all these special mind states, but they're very much contrived. They're not really what's really going on. Anyway, that might be some debate over that one, but I'm going to stand by my words. You can't end a life, you only end the physical life. The mind is born and dies every moment. There you go. There's all the questions for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night.